Hello again, welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to another Vintage Story tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about item sorting, specifically automatic item sorting. Because if you're like me, you get back, you have a lot of junk in your chest, and then you have to spend time, either you put them in a dump chest and have to sort them out later on, or you have to sort them immediately, or you just stick them some random place. But within Vintage Story, it's a little bit more kind of work, I guess, to set up an automatic sorting system because of the way that chutes read where they want to go. And there's a little bit of a trick to it. So what we're going to do for our automatic sorting system is, of course, we're going to need... I can't place it without anything there. We're going to need to set up crates. And I'm going to start off with 6, and then we're going to add some more, and I'll explain why that is. And then we're going to be using cross chutes. Now, ideally, in a perfect world, we would be using 3-way chutes, but they don't really lay flat very well, and so we're going to be using cross chutes. And then it's important that we block off this side because we don't want items going off in that direction. Now, if you do want a double-sided system where you have crates on the other side, that works perfectly fine. So if you want more bang for your buck, you want to sort more items for less copper, then go ahead and do that. It just kind of depends on your layout. I tend to do single-faced sorting systems just because they fit better into most of my builds, but maybe if I have like a warehouse or something where I've got shelves, you know, it might make more sense to have them double-sided and then you can walk between the shelves. But we're going to just place out 6. It's important, and I'll explain why, but just do 6 at a time. Do segments of 6 basically. And then we're going to come up and put an input. You know, you could be a lot more fancy than this. It could be further away, Archimedes screw, pipes bringing it over. That's fine, but we're going to have an input chest. And then we're going to take and we're going to slot in our items. Give me just a second. I'm going to slot in basically one of each of these. So we've got maple log sticks, carrot seeds, rye seeds, flax seeds, bones. Now, really, you would probably sort these into different places. So seeds would be in one place, wood would be in another, and a little bit more organized. For the purpose of this tutorial, we're just going to lay it all out. But if you need to make it longer, if you need to have it move from room to room, that's fine. Distance doesn't really matter. You're just going to want to keep in mind your sorting segment of 6, because after 6, it doesn't really sort items correctly. So what we want to do is we want to, after 6, basically reset it. Have it basically start a new segment of 6, if that makes sense. You'll see why here in just a second. But whenever it comes to sorting items, it's going to randomly determine as it comes through these 4-way chutes. That's why I would love to have 3-way chutes, but they don't really lay flat very well. So we're going to be going with these 4 ways. And it's important anytime you set up a sorting system, don't do them setting vertically like this, because what happens is as your items come down a chute line, they get caught down here because there's a dip here and they can't bring themselves back up and come around the chute. So it's important that you never have your items going down, because if you have maple logs go through, they're coming down the line. This crate, this is the first crate in the line, it has sticks. Well, the maple logs are just going to sit there on top of the sticks, and it's going to stop everything up. Nothing's going to run. You never want your sorting system to go down for item insertion. You know, you still want to use gravity to start your items. But so what we're going to do is we're going to bring them out 6. Now, right now, we could dump any of these items in here, and there is a chance. It's not a 100% chance. It's more like a 33% chance that if we threw in maple logs, they would end up in this crate. The other things that could happen is it may check this side and say, well, I can't do that, and then it'll keep going, or it may just see this side and keep going, but then about 33% of the time it's going to see this side and it's going to go into the crate. As far as the way you set up your system, it kind of comes down to personal preference. If you have a lot of self-control, the method that I tend to like doing is cycling items, but you have to have a little bit of self-control when you do that, because you need to only insert items into this chest that are sortable. So don't come back and dump your seashells if you don't have a crate set up to store them. Otherwise, you're going to need to basically break the system temporarily, break off a piece just so the items stop getting cycled. Usually, if that happens, I just break off the elbow chute at the entrance at the very beginning of it, and then get my items out that way. But you can also have your items just end, and then you have to manually pick them back up, move them back to the sort chest, and let it try to sort them again. But like I said, I like cycling it. And then what we're going to do at the very end of this line, we're just going to put in an Archimedes screw port. And then we're going to bring this up by 2. And then we're going to put in another Archimedes screw port on this side. You can do any direction, you know, it doesn't really matter, but that all kind of comes down to your setup and your personal preference for your setup. And let's just set this up to 100% so it moves a bit faster for us. So now the Archimedes port, or the Archimedes screw, can pull the items up and it can dump them off to this side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring down an elbow chute. And then we're going to have that just go into a straight chute section. And then we're just going to put a chest in. This is going to be kind of a midway chest. And if you don't want the 2 blocks between, like sometimes I just want a 1 block pillar between each 6 segments of crates. I just use a 1 block pillar. You can always just run it out the back and then just kind of bring it back around. That'll be fine. But just so you can see everything in the way it's set up at a glance, we're going to be setting it off to the left side here. And then what we're going to do is run out our next 6 crates. And then we're going to bring these through, once again, a bunch more cross chutes. And that way the stuff goes into the chest and it basically just resets that 6 block length, that 6 block segment, so that the items basically should try to sort themselves again, because like I said, after 6 blocks you generally will never end up with anything in a crate. Now after this we could continue on and add more segments, and bear in mind that you can go vertical with this. You can stack them without issue, even right on top of each other. It's not a big deal. You just kind of have to work your stuff behind the scenes. You can just kind of have to work it around that. But then what we're going to do is, at this point, we're going to have the items go into another Archimedes screw. And for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to be cycling it back after 2 cycles. But like I said, you can make it go on for... I've never really ran into a point where I can't take it any further. There might be a point, but I have never achieved it. So this one we're going to bring up a little bit higher, like this. Of course, once again, you can organize this however works best for you and your personal setup. But then we're just going to bring this through with some straight chutes around like that, elbow chute, and then we're going to allow it to cycle back. Now, once again, like I mentioned in the last tutorial, make sure that you're plugging into the left side of the trunk, not the right side, otherwise nothing will happen. So make sure you are plugging back up to that. And then, of course, we're just going to set up our creative power. So what's going to happen then is the items are going to come in, they're going to come up, and go right back around and get resorted. Now, I need to sort the other 6 items real quick. And you can do this with a trunk. For example, if you do this with a trunk, though, make sure, once again, you're plugging into the left side, and make sure that you fill all these slots with at least one of the item that you're trying to sort. And really, it would have to be a stackable item. You couldn't do temporal gears, for example, into a trunk. You know, it just wouldn't work out for you. But if you like trunks more, then you can do that. You'll get a little bit more storage in a space, but if that trunk ever has an empty slot, anything can go in there, and it will definitely go into there. Crates are nice because as long as you have a little bit of self-control and you never take the very last item, then you never have to worry about it, because crates can only accept one particular item. Whatever's slotted in there first, that's all it can accept, you know. And then I like to go through, of course, and just label these. These are all, of course, crafted together with parchment to get us a labeled crate. That's why I love parchment so much. For my sorting areas, I've got to have it. It just makes life a little bit easier. Alright, now at this point, what we can do is we can take all the items from this chest, all these items that we got while we were out exploring or whatever, and we can dump them into the sorting system. Now, it may take a couple cycles for everything to get sorted. It can take a little bit, but it's automatic. And of course, you can plug up multiple dump chests. I tend to like having a little segment of dump chests where I have a dump chest and then another dump chest that feeds into that dump chest and another dump chest and another dump chest and so on. So I basically have a lot of space where I can dump a lot of items, let them cycle through. Like I said, they're going to take a little bit. And we're just going to let this run. Now, what's going to happen a lot of times, like for example, if we put the sticks in the front here, what's going to happen a lot of times, these crates don't update without player interaction. So it's going to say there's only 1 stick in there. But what happens is if you take a stick out, you're going to see there's actually 8 sticks in there. There was 9 sticks. So you do have to manually update them to see how much is in them. Okay, and this has been running for a little bit. You can see that it's sorted through a lot of this. Now, like I said, this system, it's not fast. We haven't sorted any... Oh, it hasn't gotten to rye. It's not fast, so, you know, it's not going to be as fast as manual sorting. Now, that being said, there's a few ways that you can speed it up, and you'll notice it doesn't really update, so we got to, like, manually update it. I did change to this crate because I noticed the maple logs, they would only stack, even manually stacking, they would only stack to 16 in the aged crate, and then it would just stop accepting them. I don't know, it may have something to do with the creative aged crate whenever I grabbed it or something like that, I don't know, but the aged crates maybe weren't a great idea, but anyways, you can see it's sorted through a lot of the stuff. But like I said, it's not a perfect system. You know, there is some things you kind of have to work around. For example, you know, it doesn't always see your crate. It may just run on by and not notice it. Personally, I don't like to just have one big, massive super sorting system because I feel like it's too much to try to get items sorted. You know, it just takes way too long. It takes way too long to do that. So usually what I like to do is somewhere in my base, maybe at the entrance or just a convenient place that I'm often passing through, I'll have a series of dump chests. One will be labeled like Smith, one will be labeled like Garden, or, you know, whatever, or Tree Farm, and then I'll dump specific items into those chests. They'll get sent over basically to the start of a sorting system that then sorts those items. So wood would all get sorted into a smaller system that handles wood. You know, I don't like just dumping everything and saying, here's all these chests, figure out where you go, because it's going to take a while, especially with a lot of cluttery items like dry grass, dirt, sticks, you know, that sort of stuff. It's going to take a while for it to sort through everything. Another thing that you can do to make it a bit faster is to have multiple crates of the same kind. So if you're going to have sticks, have a few stick crates. You know, don't just have one, because then you have more chances as that item passes down the line, more chances that it's going to notice one of those crates along the way, and it's going to go into one of those crates. It does pay off to have, this is just kind of, like I said, an example. This isn't like how I would personally set it up exactly, but just to give you an idea, because it really kind of depends on your base layout, how you'd like to have things set up. You know, you might want to double, you know, crates or trunks or whatever on the other side. Like I said, trunks work fine. Just make sure and keep one of each item and make sure it's something that stacks. But giving it multiple places that it can go, it helps a ton. And just kind of giving it some smaller systems. They can still all be plugged up, right? You can have the dump chest for the smith, take your items over to the smith automatically, and then go into the sorting chest and start cycling around. Little things like that, it helps it out a lot, instead of just trying to dump it all into one major system that then it has to try to chew through everything. It can take a little bit. And another small thing I want to mention is if you are going to be leaving the area, make sure and be mindful of that, because you might lose items that are still being sorted. So don't leave it sorting items when you're not going to be there. So just be mindful of that. It takes a little self-control to use, but it does help you out substantially if set up correctly and used correctly. Now over here, I've set up basically a little example. I think it's already ran through it all. But this one, I've got 8 in a line. And this is why the 6 number is so important. Because if we take a look here, it has dumped all 64 bony soil, totally ignoring the fact that there's a trunk right here. But if I'd had that trunk a little bit closer, and these are all filled with arid packed dirt just to keep it from trying to go into those. But if I threw that bony soil in just a little bit closer, it's going to start making its way, some of it's going to start making its way into the trunk. But the basic logistics of it is when the item comes down through here, I guess technically it's a little bit more than a 30% chance, a little bit more than that. Really, I guess closer to 50%, honestly. But when the basic logistics is when the item comes through, it sees 3 pathways. It's going to choose one. If it chooses this one, it has to recheck because it can't go this way. So it's always going to pick one of these two. It's never going to pick the side that it entered. And if you have this side blocked off, it's never going to pick that side. Now, if you have a crate on this side, it can check that. But if it chooses a side, like for example, if bony soil comes through here and it looks and sees arid packed dirt, it's going to basically recalculate, and then eventually it's going to make its way on down. But if it's, say, bony soil trying to go into this trunk, it sees this path, it re-scans, it sees this path, it'll keep going and it'll miss it. But if it sees this path, then it will go into the trunk. So you can see out of 64, we got 35. So we got about 50%, right? Just running the bony soil and having that one trunk. But this trunk got nothing because after 6 blocks, it no longer really checks. It just keeps going in the direction that it was going, or whichever way that it can go. So like I said, you never want to go above 6 segments with it. So that's kind of the magical number there. So now another option, if you don't want to rely on the wind power, because of course using the Archimedes screws and the cycling back through, you do have to rely a bit on the wind power. And I wanted to show you also another way to reset your 6 long segment is simply elbow shoots. So this would be, in this case, this would be our input chest. Now this one does not require any mechanical power, but it's also not as strong as something like this. Now bear in mind with this, you can stack it, you know, just for the purposes of the tutorial, I was just doing a single layer, but you can stack it just like we did over here. So just bear that in mind. Over here, this would be your dump chest, and we have it set up the same way. These cross shoots going through, and then right here, they come down an elbow shoot and another elbow shoot, and then go back through more cross shoots to this chest. Now, with this one, since there's no cycling back through, it does mean that you don't have to worry about dumping in items that don't have a place. For this, I have arid packed dirt all through here, and the last 3 I have bony soil, just to show you that you can do above 6 segments, but you have to have some kind of vertical drop. And that's why over here we have the Archimedes screw doing that. But the bony soil, you're going to see some coming into here, but we should say if we reset this, yeah, we have 2 in there at the moment. We have 6. We have 5. You can see with 3 crates, it's more likely that it's going to pick up the bony soil, not as much as making its way to this chest. But with this type setup, without using an Archimedes screw, you do have to recycle the items back through. But it does tend to run a bit faster, and it's a little bit more controllable in a way if you need to go somewhere or something, or leave the area that you're in, your base or whatever. It's a little bit more controllable because you don't have to worry so much about items despawning, because they actually move fairly quickly through the system, and it's not as dependent on wind condition. So, for example, in my non-recording world, I'm in a place that pretty much always has wind, so I like using Archimedes screws. But if you're in a place without a lot of wind, you don't have the wind to spare, something like this might be a little bit better. But you can, of course, infinitely stack this, and you can still take it horizontal, but you have to use the Archimedes screw for that part. Plus, you can see the difference in how well they sort when you have multiple crates with this. So anyways, that's going to do it for this tutorial. A little bit longer than the last one, but we had a bit more to cover and a bit more to go over, and a bit more mechanics to talk about. But of course, if you have one of the tree farms where you have water collector items or something like that, it's great for that. It's great for dump chests. It's great for your forge. Anyways, I hope you guys found it useful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already to stay updated with when new videos come out, and I hope to see you guys next time. So until then, as always, do take care, stay safe. I'll see you guys then.